Hello, 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 everyone. Kyle A0Z. Welcome to the Thursday night stream. Sorry about not having a stream last week. I was sick. We're going to reschedule the propagation cycle 25 with Carl K9LA at some point, maybe at the end of this month. I don't know. We'll see. But tonight we have Mike KC8OWL, where we're going to talk about APRS Thursday. I'm excited because I love APRS. I absolutely love it. I know that Mike out there, I don't know if Mike is watching, but K8MRD does not like APRS, but I like it. So whenever, I think it was TJ,
Yep.
K9,
Big time
KJ.
DXer.
Yeah, big time DXer introduced us and said, hey, you need to talk to my friend Mike about here we go. I got to APRS is killing ham radio. This is not what we want. But yeah.
Oh.
TJ said, hey, you need to contact my friend Mike and we should do an APRS stream because we had I had Jason KM4ACK on my stream to talk about APRS. So welcome, Mike, to the stream. How are you?
Thanks, Kyle. I am great. Happy to be here tonight. Thank you for inviting me to share the APRS Thursday story. What the heck is it? How did it happen? And what is it even all about? Get into all that here. But yeah, Mike KC8OWL. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. That's how I got the 8 call. But live in Henderson, Nevada. Lived out here for about the last 5.5 years now. So I left the freezing temperatures behind.
Yeah,
it's a good move
cold
here lately.
It is cold. I don't. It got above freezing today here in St. Louis, but it's not supposed to be above freezing this weekend. So
yeah. But I've had my license since the year 2000, actually, Y2K. Folks are old enough to remember the whole Y2K panic thing.
Right.
So
yep.
Anyway, I got my license in Y2K technician, and had my general for about the last 20 years. Really need to get over the hump and get my extra. But anyway, see, I've been been into all facets of radio since I was a little kid. I mean, it started when I was a kid. My very first radio that was like one of those kits you build from Radio Shack. It was an aircraft receiver, and as soon as I put that thing together, I was like 10 years old and heard airplanes. I was hooked.
Yeah.
So it just it just went downhill from there, and it just got more expensive. So
yes.
But no, thank you for having me here. So looking forward to sharing the story with folks here tonight.
Yeah. So let's get right into it. So you've got a presentation, right?
Yeah, I've got slides all set up here. I've given this presentation a few other times for some local ham clubs and organizations and things. So this really tells the whole story. So if we're ready, I could share my screen and we can just kind of dive right into it.
Yeah, let's go. Joseph, you had a question off the get-go here. Let's get through some of the slides and we'll see if we can answer your question when the time comes. I'm sure Mike has probably got a slide on your question. So let's let me add this to, and let's go that way. And yep, you are presenting, Mike. We're good to go.
All right, thanks, Kyle. So APRS Thursday, making 1200 baud cool again. So some of us probably remember when 1200 baud was the modem speed also, when we were young punks playing with computers. But well, it's still alive and well in ham radio, so trust me there. But what is APRS? We'll give a real high level overview here. This is not going to be a presentation that goes into the weeds on how APRS works behind the scenes or anything like that. But just to kind of level set APRS. It's the automated packet reporting system, and it was actually created by, it's a silent key now, but Bob Brigina, WB4APR. And this was when he was with the Naval Academy. And the very first implementation of APRS, really, back in those days, was for ship tracking via VHF radio. And fast forward, into ham radio now, APRS. The technology of APRS is now an amateur radio-based system for real-time digital communications. And, those types of communications, it can include things like GPS position, your GPS coordinates, weather station telemetry gets, beaconed out periodically, text messages. I've got that in yellow text because the text messaging capability is really that's it's 90% of what we're going to be talking about here tonight. That's what enables APRS Thursday to happen, is that text messaging capability that's part of the APRS package. There's also announcements you can execute. You can send queries to APRS to different systems, get information back all over the air and things like that, and other telemetry. So, that's about, that for the level set, that's APRS. But again, we're here to talk about APRS Thursday and how it works, not do a deep dive into, the underpinnings of APRS.
Yeah.
So what is APRS Thursday anyway? Well, the first most important thing is that it's the day after WinLink Wednesday.
Of course. Why wouldn't it be?
We had to pick the next day in succession on the calendar, I guess. But it all really started on social media platform Instagram, where Cody K7XYG and the big time DXer Tom K9KG and KJ and a few others, were basically sort of messaging over social media and experimenting with these radios. And it was along the lines of, hey, you know what? I think we can send text messages to each other on these Yaesu radios somehow. How does that work?
Yeah.
So, the experimentation with sending those messages would actually become the net. So that experimentation went from about 2 or 3 users, like I called out a couple of the big ones up on top there, and then to maybe 5 users and then maybe 10, and at this point, there's a small group of us and we all follow each other on Instagram, and we're all using Instagram to basically say, hey, Cody, I'm going to try and send you an APRS message, in a minute. Let me know if you get it. So we're kind of coordinating, with Instagram. As we started sort of posting about this, while we were learning, obviously other folks started to see it. Ham radio people follow ham radio people.
Right.
And other folks wanted to join in. So when you think about that, again, it's what we're really here to talk about is the messaging component. So how does APRS messaging really work? APRS text messaging, like I said, is just one of the capabilities. Sort of at the root of the transport are digipeaters. APRS packets of data are relayed by digipeaters. And, when you think about a digipeater, it's not the same as a voice repeater. A digipeater is a store and forward device. In other words, it will hear a packet, or it'll hear, I'll just singularly refer to it as a packet. It'll hear a packet, it'll store it briefly, it turn around and retransmit it over a broader area. All of the digipeaters will work on the same frequency. Here in the United States, it's 144.39 in wide FM here in North America. But the digipeater, is the device. It's like a voice repeater, a little different. Like I said, it's only listening for packets and it retransmits those packets over a broader area. Where the magic starts to come into play is when we start talking about the internet gateway, referred to as an iGate. So for right now, we'll get in a little more detail about it, but for now, you think about the iGate. It's the interface to the magic network. Think of the cloud, the APRS IS network, which sits up off the internet. And that iGate sits between the digipeater in the big magic cloud where the APRS IS network lives. And that is what gives APRS the global reach, is the interface to the APRS IS network. And I've got some pictures. We'll talk more about that. But again, sort of level setting the environment here. Digipeaters and iGates are often, but not always, connected together. So in other words, you can have a digipeater, it doesn't have to have an iGate. You can have an iGate that's hooked up to just a receiver. It doesn't transmit anything, but it just listens for traffic and injects it into the APRS IS network to get it out there. So when you think about sending a message, by my Yaesu FT5 here, when you think about me sending a message to you, to Kyle, or anyone, and in this example I've got Cody K7XYG, how does that message know how to get from my radio here in Henderson, Nevada, to Cody, who happens to live in the Phoenix area? How does that really work? So this picture, we'll take it one step at a time. Looks, there's a lot of stuff on here, but we'll walk through each step. And this is how the message routing works. This is how that message knows how to get to Cody's radio in Phoenix when I'm sending it from over here in Las Vegas. So it starts on the left-hand side. We'll read from left to right. My FT5, I format the message. I input the message onto my radio, and I click the button that makes it transmit. What happens next is, after that message leaves my radio, the local digipeater, and in my case, my local digipeater is about 3 feet away. It's right over here outside of camera, but I've got my own. I built one. But the digipeater hears that message from my radio. Again, it briefly stores it and retransmits it. Okay, so far all we're doing is what we just talked about. It's went from my radio to the digipeater. But my digipeater is connected. That's the next hop here, the third hop. It's connected to my iGate. So what the iGate really does is it receives that message from the digipeater. It decodes it, does what it does, and then injects that message into what I refer to as that magic cloud. But right here, the internet, the APRS-IS network sits up here in the cloud. Okay, this network, like I said, is what enables the global reach of APRS. So if you've ever gone to the website aprs.fi, for example, there's other ones. That is how that map is populated. That map is populated by data that is supplied from the APRS-IS network and plops it right down in the map. That's how you can see everything. So now we've got
a bunch of servers on the internet that are collecting all of that data, right?
Right. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So now my message is up here in the cloud.
Yep.
How does it? We're only halfway there. How does it know how does it know how to get to the next next step in the sequence? So here's how it works. Every iGate is connected to the APRS-IS network, and every iGate hears the message. But only one or two of those iGates have actually recently heard the destination station.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're over here. This, KX or K7XYG-10, his iGate says, hey, I recently heard that station.
Or any iGate that he has passed his packet through,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Right. I just called it out here by his call sign, for example. But basically, to your point, and the point being, whatever iGate he has recently passed his data through, well, that iGate knows where he is, and it knows the route that data took to get to the iGate. It knows that it came from this digipeater. Okay, and if we follow it down one more step, from the digipeater, we go right down to his radio that is sending the data or is beaconing his position, sending that information. Well, that's how the network knows where his radio is. That's how the network knows where my radio is. That's how the network knows where anybody else's radio is, as long as it's sent traffic through a digipeater to an iGate, made it up to the network. It's how it knows where everybody's at. And it uses that last position information, last heard information, to route the message. It's like, hey, last time I heard from that station, this is the path they took to get to me. So I'm going to shoot it right back down that same path. Hopefully he gets it. Yeah.
Hammer Till It Hurts asks, is an iGate required for packet routing if there is there not an RF only path for messages? So
yes, no, there absolutely is. I mean, there absolutely is an RF only path. I'll call it a constraint. It's not really a constraint. I'll say that the difference being, you can, high profile digipeaters, think of digipeaters high up on a mountain with a really great footprint, things like that. Depending on how your message, on how you've configured your message, you can tell that message how many hops that it can make from one digipeater to the next, to the next. In other words, sort of getting routed from one county to the next county to the next county, all by RF.
Yeah.
But there's still some practical limitations to that. You're not going to get global through an
Yeah.
RF only path with APRS, but you can
Yeah.
very, very much so, maybe local and regional. You don't
Right.
need an
Right.
iGate.
Yeah, if you're like in St. Louis, if I want to pass a message from West County to just across the river in Illinois, that's practical, right? Because
Yeah.
it might go through a digipeater, it might be even go through two digipeaters because of the path that I have configured my message to use. So therefore, it might die after a couple of digipeaters
Right.
hops,
Right.
right? I'm
Right. And
definitely not. I'm
you can
right.
control the number of hops. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is impractical to like put in 7 or 8 hops thinking that
Yeah.
you're going to send a message from Missouri to maybe like in the middle of Kansas. It there there could be a path there. I doubt it, but there are lots of gaps in the APRS digipeater system that
Yeah.
just allow you to possibly the best you're going to get is maybe regionally, like you said.
Yeah, right. But yeah, to answer the question, absolutely. You can pass messages over RF only, but there'll be some limitations in terms of how far you can reach.
Yeah. And Jim brings up a really good point that I'm sure that you probably have a slide on this that Jim, WA4 VGZ says, should a beacon be sent out before sending a message?
Actually, that is a great question,
That is an
and
awesome question.
it's actually counterintuitive. The beacon should be sent directly after the message, and in my brain that doesn't compute.
Right.
But I've had this conversation with Lynn KJ4ERJ, and he's the author of the APRS ISCE desktop application for APRS, and he knows the APRS spec like inside and out. And he's like, no, actually, the best way, and I'll show you how this works on maps. I'll show you what we do with maps in a little bit. But the best way to make sure that after someone checks into the net, that their station is plotted on the map with their GPS coordinates is that they send that beacon after they send their message.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
well, we'll get into that more.
Yeah. So how does APRS Thursday work? Well, remember, before we went on that little tangent about how the iGates and all that stuff works, the first actual net was on April 21st of 2022, and we had about 20 operators messaging each other individually. And I underlined individually very intentionally because it was, for example, again, we're still using Instagram as our as our backbone. So it's like me messaging Kyle messaging me, hey, checkbox, me messaging Cody messaging me. There's another one. So we're doing this individually. Nobody else could see what anybody else is doing. And I work from home, so it's like, so I kept the list over here on the side, during the days, who talked to who and everything. And that was our first net. But that really was not ideal. You think about how a net works. We needed a way to somehow do group messaging so that everyone else could see the check-ins happening, just like a regular net. You hear everybody. So it's like, man, there's got to be a better way out there. There's got to be something that works. So I started, doing some Google research, and sure enough, I found what is called the announcement server, and ANSRVR is its call sign, if you will, on the network. But really what this is it is a utility that is bolted on to the side of the it's connected to the APRS IS network, and it basically does one-to-many message relays for APRS messaging. So, you think about how an email reflector works, things like that. It's the exact same thing, but for APRS messages. And I'll show you in a picture here how this works in a minute. But basically, it lets me send a message to multiple stations all at the same time. And that was the answer we were looking for on how we were going to do this net. So the announcement server hosts hundreds of different special interest message groups, amateur balloons and Skywarn and Red Cross and hurricanes and anything you can think of. So the ANSRVR hosts all these message groups. Our message group that we use for APRS Thursday is called HOTG or Hot G. And I'll answer that question before it comes up. But what does hot G stand for? What it stands for is hams on the gram, because this all started on Instagram.
Yeah.
So we have a message group called Hams on the Gram, and this is how it works. So again, I love pictures. I live in PowerPoint all day from my day job. So but here's how it works. What I'm going to walk through, and again, we'll take it one step at a time. It makes sense as we go. But this is how the check-in traffic for APRS Thursday is routed. We start over here on the far left-hand side. This is me with my FT5.
Yep.
And I'm going to send my properly formatted check-in message, which I'll show you the format in a few slides. We'll cover all that. But I'm sending my properly formatted check-in message to ANSRVR. That's the call sign of the service, okay?
Yep.
Goes to my digipeater, just like we talked about. My digipeater hands it off to my iGate. My iGate injects it into the network. Okay, it made it to the network. Well, attached to that network is the announcement server. The yellow box represents that utility called the announcement server. And HotG is one of the message groups, one of the hundreds of message groups that are hosted there. So it says, okay, so this message is going to the announcement server, and this message is going to the HotG group. So what the announcement server does is take that message, turn it around, and broadcast it out to every other station that has joined HotG on that day, basically.
Gotcha. Within 24 hours?
It's actually 12 hours.
12 hours. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So, and that's what we represent here. So ANSRVR, basically, like I said, takes my message, turns it around, and it sends it to station 1, station 2, station 3, all, as many stations as there are. And we'll get into some of the numbers around this in a little bit here too, in terms of how many stations there really are during a net. But that's basically how it works. ANS, the announcement server sits there. It's connected to the network. It watches for traffic addressed to ANSRVR, and then it says, "Oh, what message group?" and turns it around and broadcasts it out one to many.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool thing. So that is how the traffic for the net is actually routed.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
Now that that's how the traffic's routed, how do you check in? So, well, to check into the weekly net, and I'll show you a picture of this in a minute, but we'll cover it with words here in a second. And if anybody's old enough to have done mainframe programming, you'll like the color scheme here. That was kind of the whole theme here as I made these slides. It's like, man, we're talking about 1200 baud technology. This is so old school. It's like this has to look like a mainframe terminal.
Well, the font is very familiar too. I was just like, that's a very familiar font.
Yeah. So how does one check in? To check into the weekly net, you send a CQ command to the message group, and then the message of your text. And the important thing here to remember, the destination's call sign is ANSRVR. I'll show you this in a picture. You'll be able to actually see it. Membership in the group will last approximately 12 hours after your last command or message was sent. So, for example, this morning, I start work early. I'm up at 4 usually every morning, and so 4:30 today was APRS Thursday. So I sent a message out to the group at about 4:30 this morning. So I would remain joined to that message group until 4:30 this afternoon. And then if I take no other action, I'll just fall off the list.
Gotcha.
Until next time. So on my FT5, here's what it actually looks like. I mean, it's very simple, but number one here, the destination station, like I said, is ANSRVR right up here.
Yep.
The next piece of information is the CQ command. So the first 2 characters of the actual message body are CQ, followed by a space. The third piece of data is your message group. In this case, it's HOTG. But like I said, it could be Skywarn, it could be Hurricane, it could be Red Cross, it could be, all sorts of different groups. And then the actual text of your message, you input it here. And then lastly, you push message transmit and the process begins. So this is what a properly formatted check-in looks like using the announcement server on an FT5. So, it's similar in other radios too, but again, the important part is that the context here. CQ followed by a space, followed by your message group, followed by a space, and then whatever you want to type.
Yep. VE5 SAR. I believe is that Jody? Yeah, I believe that's Jody. Not case sensitive.
No. In fact, I noticed that because I've got it all in caps over here on the left-hand side. In my actual APRS interface, it's lowercase. It is not case sensitive.
Gotcha.
Any other questions out there before we?
No, they're just reminiscent on the old mainframe days. And then Paul's got a comment here. He said, texting like a Nokia.
Exactly. In fact, where is it here? I've got, something that
I think it's called like T9 or 9T
T9.
texting. Yeah.
You know what makes it a lot easier to tap out your message on like the FT5 touchscreen is you just get like one of those stylus pens for like an iPad or a phone or something, and then you get pretty fast. Actually, yeah. It's pretty good. So, all right, you've done everything we just talked about. How do you know your check-in made it? How do you know that it actually got to the other side? That it did what it was supposed to do? Well, the announcement server will send you a confirmation, and this is what it looks like. So you can see up here, RX received from the announcement server.
Mm-hmm.
The second piece of information here is the message group will be cited. So it'll say N : and then hot G. The N just means it's a numbered APRS message. Hot G, the message group, and it says 124 messages sent. So after you send your check-in, that's one of the, I get a lot of questions on, the different, on like Facebook group and different things like, hey, I sent my message. Did it make it? Did it get through? Did you see it? Type of thing. And if you made it, you'll know because, within a minute, actually, I mean, it's within a couple seconds, but sometimes on Thursdays, it takes a little longer just because of all the traffic. You'll know because you'll get a confirmation back from the announcement server saying how many messages were sent.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty cool. What happens after you check in? We did all that stuff. We checked in. I got my confirmation. Like I said, after checking in, your station will be, and I've got these in quotes and, capital J joined, because this is a terminology that's specific to the announcement server, but you will be joined to the Hotg message group for 12 hours.
For 12 hours after you check in?
Yeah. If you do nothing else. If you decide at lunchtime you want to send another message to the group, that will reset your 12-hour clock.
Okay, gotcha.
So all traffic from all stations sending messages to the Hotg message group will be routed to your station for those 12 hours.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's important because, we also want to be sensitive of unnecessary use of bandwidth that we have available too. And that's why this next bullet point is something that I've very recently tried to make much more clear to the user group, is that stations that want to check in but will not be monitoring net traffic after the check-in. So this is your hey, I'm in and out. We do that on voice nets all the time. Oh, in and out. It basically just means, check me in, but I got other stuff to do.
Short time.
Yeah.
we have short time here in St. Louis.
The announcement server provides the capability of unjoining from the Hotg message group. All you need to do is send the command U space Hotg to the announcement server. What will happen is the announcement server will say, oh, okay, KC8OWL doesn't want to be part of the group anymore today. So you're out, and you will no longer, messages will no longer be routed to your station. And I mean, that's important, because you think about, maybe digipeters that are in, metropolitan areas, maybe heavily, it's not like there's a million APRS users in every city, but, the point still being, if there's 10 stations and all 10 stations have checked in through a local digipeter, and none of those 10 stations are, actually going to sit there and actively monitor the traffic, the right thing to do is unjoin so that that traffic doesn't have to keep getting pushed out over RF to those stations that aren't even there to see it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really just about, being like, kind of to be a good citizen. So, but using the unjoin is a great thing to basically affect an in and out or a short time. 24-hour net. How do you do that? The APRS Thursday net is a 24-hour net. It's truly worldwide, and it's really the only fair way to do that sort of a global net is to provide it over a 24-hour period so that folks in different parts of the world have equal opportunity to check in, at their convenience, really, regardless of where they're located. So, you think about it, because the announcement server acknowledges every check-in that happens, there really doesn't have to be a person acknowledging check-ins as they happen, like a traditional voice net. You got to have somebody there answering the calls, right? So we really don't need that here, and we don't. I don't have to write the data down. I don't have to log the check-ins because all that data is stored on APRS in the APRS-IS network. So when I run all the data and aggregate it all Friday mornings and share the results all back out, I just do a dump of data down from APRS.fi, and I've got a couple filters set up and crunch the data around and come out with the results. But point being, it's easy to do a 24-hour net because no person needs to sit there and acknowledge any of the check-ins because the system does it for us. So it makes it kind of easy. But that being said, I do like to, and I always encourage other folks to, if you're, actively monitoring the traffic, you see this, see it coming, flashing by on your radio, respond to a couple folks once in a while. It's fun to make a contact with somebody in, Turkey or Sweden or, wherever, while you're laying on your couch drinking your coffee in the morning or something with your handheld over APRS messaging. Just something about it's just fun. So I always encourage folks to do that.
I want to reiterate that this is the APRS IS server is global, right? It is it's capturing all of the APRS packets. It doesn't matter what frequency you're transmitting your APRS packet on. It is global. And Hayden from Tasmania is in the chat here, and he loves APRS. So I expected. Now you've got me. Now I want to go get my radio and start sending messages before. Actually, we're done. We're done with APRS Thursday, right? Because it's Friday.
Yeah. It runs. It follows the UTC clock. So like I said, I'm here in Las Vegas. So for me, it starts Wednesday afternoon at like 5 p.m.
Right.
But it is on Thursday, the 24 hours of Thursday, but defined by UTC only.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So, all right. Well, how can I participate? How can anyone participate? Obviously the obvious answer is first by radio. There's Yaesu pretty much has the market right now, even though it's awesome to see Kenwood release their D75. Kenwood being back in the market with an APRS capable radio, but by and large, Yaesu owns that market here in the US. They've got mobiles and, at least one other HT, they still make the FT5 that does APRS. Kenwood's another one. You get a hold of some of their older radios or things, they're actually pretty sought after. So, Anytone 878 is a very popular radio, and it's also APRS capable. The thing about Anytone, and this is another very common question and thing that I see a lot of posts about, the earlier implementations of the Anytone 878, when you talk about APRS, it was only one way. The radio would send APRS data, but it wouldn't. You
wouldn't receive it.
Yeah. So it's like, you would never get it. You can never get anything back. And that's how it worked.
Like, why would you even put that out? If you could send it, but you couldn't decode it. Like, what's the point? What's the point?
I know. Yeah. I mean, it's minimal use cases around that one. But anyway, but I think, the most current version, whatever the most current version is, it's like, they've got so many letters after it now. It's like UV plus ABC, whatever, but the most current version of it does provide messaging capability both ways. So that's a popular radio. You can do it over DMR. DMR APRS via either a DMR repeater or a hotspot with Brandmeister through the Brandmeister network. There's a couple configuration things you need to do, but basically you just send it to the APRS talk group, and it works. I mean, I do that frequently as well. You can do it through what I'll call a dumb radio. And what I mean by that is a radio that doesn't have native built-in APRS capability. So, for example, I could grab my my VX6 and hook it up to something like this. I don't need to see it very well, but like a Mobilink TNC3 or TNC4.
Yep.
And through Bluetooth interface to my iPhone, and I can use that for APRS messaging.
Yep. Somebody said a DigiPi.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there are a lot of different things you can do here. I'll cover some of the some of the popular ones, but the APRS.FI app if you use iOS.
Yep.
There's the APRS Droid if you use the Android flavor. There's a few other ones out there too, but those are the popular ones. If you're using a desktop or a laptop, there's APRS ISCE. There's Pinpoint.
There's a whole slew of them.
Yeah, there's others. Mac has some too. There's, just for the Mac. What if you don't have anything? Well, no problem, man. Just use the ISS. Use the space station. So, and I include this because this is kind of cool. But on the left-hand side is an actual message that came across during APRS Thursday from DB1NTO. And DB1NTO is the person who developed this, the Pico APRS. I think they call this little guy.
Yeah, Josh loves that.
Yeah. I've seen those. Yeah, I've watched his videos on it. So he occasionally will check in on using his Pico. And in this particular case, you read see from the message it says Pico APRS V4 check-in via International Space Station ISS. So I said, oh man, that's cool. But I went and checked actually on the ariss.net website, and sure enough, there he is, in Germany. Yeah. Not that I didn't think that he checked in, but it's to kind of complete the storyline here. Hey, no digipeater, no problem. Just know when the ISS is passing, and bounce it through that. And usually, at least a few people every week will do that. So that's
cool. Yeah. I have an app on my phone here. It's called ISS Detector, and it tells you when the ISS is, and all the ham radio satellites. You can set this up, and it will tell you whenever you're going to be in range for an ISS pass. Really cool.
Yeah. I've got an app too on my iPhone. I think I pay like 50 cents a month or something for it. I don't know. I had to pay for it. It's not a lot though.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I use it for similar reasons. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But occasionally I will take check-ins over email. Another capability in the APRS ecosystem is the ability to initiate an email from your APRS device to an internet-based email account, or so in this case, this is an actual screenshot from my FT5 where the station that I'm sending it to is email, EMAIL. Okay, and look at the message format. Basically, the message format is you start with the destination email address. I was sending this to myself for my radio, KC8OWL at yahoo.com, test to email. Click transmit, and within a couple of seconds, it'll be in your email box.
Yeah, it's off. Yep.
So it's cool. It's another capability that you can do. Again, it doesn't mean that it's going. Doesn't mean you don't want to do it all the time or something. But in a certain situation, you never know when it might come in handy.
It's always good to know what you have at your disposal.
Yeah.
There's so many things that ham radio can do that people just don't understand, or sometimes they forget. Like, I might be out on a place that I need to get a hold of somebody, and I don't have cell phone access, and I always forget that I might have access to, let's say I'm on top of a mountain, or at a high spot out west, right? And the digipeters are like, they're everywhere out west. And you can probably almost get to a digipeater that is connected to an iGate. So if you don't have cell phone signal and you need to get a message out, this is one of the perfect examples on how to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Even just to say, hey, I made it, everything's fine.
Right, right.
You know, so there's that, and this is new. I added this, but there's been some really great, just really cool innovation taking place here lately too, with APRS and HF. So for those that maybe follow, have been following it on Facebook, there's a VARA APRS Facebook group that's recently come together. And basically, the long and short of this is, maybe a lot of folks, myself included, use VARA as a modem for things like WinLink and other types of stuff. Well, what this group is now doing is using the VARA HF modem interface to one of the desktop APRS applications like Pinpoint, like APRS ISCE, and using it for APRS over HF, and they've they're connecting iGates to it, and now they're it's really getting interesting, because now you've got HF APRS capability to iGate stations, different places around the country, that over HF now you can bounce your APRS message to an iGate, maybe on the other side of the country.
Right.
And get it into the network. So that's been taking place, and folks are checking into the net through VARA APRS now every week. JS8 call is another tool that folks are using over HF to check in. I try and do this every week also. It's very simple. Actually, it's very easy. It's just you just have to get the characters in the proper spaces when you send your message through JS8. But that works. You'll see a number of stations checking in over JS8, 20, 30, and 40 meters. And another thing that is really taken off, not so much here in the with operators in the United States, but folks overseas, is using the LoRa trackers to interface basically and send and receive APRS traffic.
Yeah.
So I've been, lately I've kind of changed my reporting every week, and I now identify by different color codes which stations have checked in through VARA, which stations have used JS8, which stations have used LoRa to check in, and there's always about maybe 12 or 15 folks that are doing it through one of these now every week too. So it's some cool innovation happening here.
Yeah.
I think.
Did you? All right. So maybe I missed it, and I was checking messages here. So whenever I join the APRS, I join the messages and I see that there's 120 messages. Then once I have joined, I'm going to see if somebody checks in after me, I'm going to start to see their message. So if they say, hey, checking in from St. Louis, Missouri, I will see that message. But if I want to send a private message to someone, I'm not able to do that. I need to do that. I mean, I could probably do that through the APRS system, but it wouldn't be through the APRS net advertising group, right?
Well, actually, it's sort of, yes, actually you can do that. So
you can. Okay.
So the announcement server, when Lynn built the announcement server, he included the capability intentionally, so that if you receive my check-in, say, hey, I checking in from Las Vegas, and you get that broadcast message, everybody gets it, and you're like, oh, Mike's on, let me message him back. You can actually reply to that message, and it will automatically go back to only the station that sent it.
Okay, gotcha.
So from the group message, you can basically immediately transition to a direct message.
Gotcha. Okay.
Between two operators.
Yeah. I got it. Okay. Good deal.
Cool. It's cool. It's so how large is this net? I alluded to this a little while ago here. So this is a rolling 52-week sort of representation of operator volume.
Holy moly!
Last week we had 528 operators, and again, I want to be clear with my terminology. When I go through and I work all the data, I dedupe what happens is that, folks check in more than once, basically. Sometimes you'll see the same call sign, with maybe 3 or 4 different SSIDs. Somebody's checking in from their radio, somebody's checking in from their phone, somebody's checking in from their desktop app. They want to test everything, and it's a cool gadget, so the same operator may check in numerous times over the course of the net. But I dedupe that. I strip out all the SSIDs and I boil it all down to just the root call sign, regardless of how many times they may have checked in during the net. I just count the operator once.
Right.
So we had 528 unique operators participate in last week's net. And that, they sending one or more messages over the duration of the net.
Wow,
so
that's
that's the third highest.
Awesome.
Yeah. And well, think about it, and sort of, play that back against, what we talked about when we first got going here about this thing started out with, as many people as you could count on one hand trying to figure out how to send messages and using Instagram as
right.
is their safety net. So, so it is very truly, I didn't know what to expect, when it started, but like I said, I've had my license for 23, almost 24 years now. I didn't get into APRS until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I was part of the group figuring this stuff out.
Yeah.
And, I was like, hey, this stuff is cool. And, it started to gain traction and I'm like, man, we're going to go with this, so,
that's great. That's awesome. I would have thought
this is absolutely wonderful. This is absolutely cool. I'm so thankful that everybody, folks really, have latched onto this. Is, for a lot of folks, I feel good about the fact that, hey, maybe it's because of this net that they actually, had a reason to look into, say, hey, what actually is this APRS, and learn how to use it. It's a capability maybe their radio had. They never really thought twice about it. Yeah, it's that position, location thing, like that. Right. Me, that's what I thought for so long. Is I don't need that. But there's so much more to it. And, I feel good about the fact that maybe this was the reason they learned something, and that they now have another, it's not going to, is it the end all be all? No, but it's another tool in the toolbox for people. If you know how to use it and you practice with it once in a while, and, kind of keep it fresh in your mind, hey, you never know when it might come in handy, So yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah. If you would have asked me, hey, how many people do you think check into this net? I literally would have said, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 people, Whenever you flash this slide up, I was like, oh my gosh. Hamatilla Hertz has a comment, which I think is very valid and a very good comment here. He said, just think what it would look like if everyone lived in an APRS black hole and stood up a digipeater, or at least a fill-in digipeater. It would be awesome. That would be great.
It really would be. In fact, that's my digipeater I've got at my house here is basically just a small fill-in.
Yeah.
I live kind of, it kind of in a hole here. So it's like, well, I built it for myself, but it's also for other folks in the area. But you're right, So this is really cool. I mean, I'm humbled by it. I enjoy doing it, in the fact that, that so many operators around the world make time in their day to shoot some messages back and forth with other operators around the world with similar interests and same gadgets. It's totally cool. I love it. It's fun.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Bigger than you think.
Yeah. And it's always cool whenever you take a old technology and you do something cool with it. Right.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example of taking APRS that has been around for years and years and years. Whenever Bob first invented it and sent the first APRS package, I can't remember when. I used to know, but probably a good trivia question. But and now doing cool things with an old technology is what ham radio is sometimes about, right?
Making 1200 baud cool again. I mean, that's why, I kind of came up with that slogan, but it's so true, because it's like, by any other measure, that is the most archaic, data transmission speed. It's like, what? But
Hayden says we need to do fantasy football over APRS.
Hey, man.
What
Create a message group. Create a message group on
Yeah.
on the announcement server.
First, we need to gamify APRS and make a contest out of it. How can we make in the chat? How can we make APRS a contest? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, man. It's this. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm game, man. Do it. But you know, when we taking a different look at the map, and I want to thank Harry YD0BCX. Every week he volunteered to generate these maps every week for me, so I don't have to do it now as part of the package that I send out on Friday after the net. So thank you, Harry, for you know, for preparing all this data for me. It makes the job a lot easier. But this is a good global representation, you know, just kind of give you an idea. But obviously very heavy use, especially on the, you know, the east half of the United States. But you know, heavy usage in the United States down through Mexico into, you know, some areas of South America. Heavy pockets in Europe. You see this guy over here, sort of in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
To the left of Africa. That is actually what is called Null Island. That's where all the stations go when they don't pass their GPS coordinates.
Oh.
So actually, there's a whole bunch of stations all on top of each other there, where their GPS coordinates didn't get passed. But
I've been putting Null Island many times. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, very very heavy, you know, heavy usage over here in the Pacific. In fact, you'll see tons of check-ins from stations in Malaysia and that area overnight. In our overnight hours usually is, but we'll see a lot of this traffic happening during the overnight United States time. Australia, New Zealand. So, you know, truly is global. So this is kind of a neat perspective to look at once in a while here too.
Yeah.
We have a thing, Rick, K7TEJ came up with the idea of a worked all states, and he offered to facilitate it. So again, it's, you know, it's a group of folks of, you know, sort of we're all coming together and volunteering to do things to make this work. But Rick, you know, facilitates a worked all states award now. And he's got a log sheet, and he actually checks it, and you know, all that kind of stuff. But Rick, you know, facilitates this worked all states. We've had 4 winners, 4 folks that have made an APRS, a verified APRS message exchange, to every state, you know, in the United States. Here we've got Jeff, Andrew, Cody, and Adam. So, you know, again, it's sort of a cool thing. You know, it was popular over the summer, everybody trying to get their worked all states. We were thinking about, you know, worked all continents, you know, to you know, just different ideas. So where to find, where do you go for more info? You know, you know, it was not my idea to create a Facebook group, but I'm glad we did. So basically, you know, we have a Facebook group called APRS Thursday. I want to sincerely thank William, K04DBP, and Lee, ZL1LAK, LAC, and Ernesto, and for LED for managing the Facebook group. It was William's idea to you know, to develop the Facebook group as a place where everybody can come, where we could share information about APRS Thursday, and you know, try and create that central sort of watering hole for it. You know, I've never been a big Facebook lover. You know, I mean, I've just never been a fan really, and but I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's give it a try. So we've got over 2,000 members now in this Facebook group. You know, it's like, and you know, you think about that. So we've got over 2,000 members in the Facebook group. You know, we had about 528 check-ins. So still, you know, maybe only, you know, 1/4 actually, you know, checked into the net. But what was interesting, I did an interesting exercise with all of the 2023 data. Is I deduped all the call signs and got the unique set of call signs. And over the course of 2023, over 52 weeks of the net, we had like 2,300 different unique call signs that checked in at least once in 2023. So that's actually really cool. And that, you know, kind of gets a lot closer to the membership that we've got in the APRS Thursday group. But if you're a Facebook user, just search APRS Thursday. It's a private group, but you know, just as long as you've got a call sign and you agree to, you know, be nice, you're in. So
I will I put the link to the Facebook group in the chat, and I also put it in the description in the YouTube page. So
Awesome.
you can either
Awesome.
click on the Facebook group in the chat or go down to the description, and that link is there.
Yeah. A couple other things here, and we're just about to the end, folks. So hang in there. Where else to find us? You know, again, I usually share, I advertise it once a week, and I also share the results on my Instagram. So if you're an Instagram user, you know, you can follow me, MAPD44256 on Instagram, on Twitter, X now. I should probably update that. My call sign at KC8OWL. There's a groups.io, APRS at groups.io is another venue online where I share this information. And actually, that is a really great group to join if you just got questions about APRS. There's a lot of really knowledgeable folks on this group here, APRS at groups.io. So I encourage you to get on that email distribution. You'll learn something there. Or just shoot me an email. You know, my email has been at the bottom of every slide. I'll call it out again here. If you have any questions, if you have any problems, if you hey, you said this and it didn't make sense, or I can't figure this out, email me. I'll be happy to help you out. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you've got. So just shoot me the email at my call sign at yahoo.com. So again, you talk about a small community of folks that have come together to help this grow, and contribute. So Joe, he's a dual call sign, DU2XXR or N2RAC. He manages the APRS PH system, Philippines system, and the APRS PH website. But he also logs all of the APRS Thursday traffic on his website. So if you ever wanted to go to a website and say, hey, hey, did you make it? Did my check-in get through? You can go to his website, and he's got a list that gets updated in real time as check-ins occur, in order by time. So you can go to his website. And more recently, Steve, N2RWE, he's got a really cool APRS related website. And I've got the links here too. And I will, if you want to, anybody who wants a copy of these, I just realized I've got the links in here, but it doesn't really help in the live share. But if you would like a copy of this presentation, I'll be happy to send it over to anyone who wants it. Just shoot me an email again at my call sign, KC8OWL@yahoo.com, so that you can get these links. But back to my point, N2RWE has a really cool APRS website, and he has a section now too dedicated just to APRS Thursday. And he's got it formatted in a really nice, intuitive way where, again, it's sequential. But the station, the time, what their message text was, and all that kind of stuff. It's very easy to consume, very easy to scroll through and see all the messages. You can look for yourself or anyone else. You can export it and do different things with the data. So again, very thankful that the folks have basically volunteered or put their own time in, to kind of help build these solutions to help supplement this net and make it more user friendly in some aspects. So these are all the different ways you can get a hold of me.
I put the links. I just copied the links and put them in the description. And also, I want to thank Mike into MAK for the super chat. Thanks.
Yeah.
He said, "Thanks, Mike, for doing APRS Thursday night. It's fun and simple. It's helped me encouraged me to learn and try new things." Of course, this is a perfect example of the cool things that you can do with an older technology that Mike and others have designed and is doing cool things. It's neat.
Yeah, I appreciate Mike. He occasionally shares stuff on his channels and social media outlets about APRS Thursday too. So thank you. I appreciate all the times you've mentioned it and all that too. So thanks, Mike.
Yeah, and hopefully we hit about 100 people watching. Hopefully this will
great.
Spark some go right now and put APRS Thursday on your calendar, and let's see if we can hit 600 people next Thursday. Maybe we can hit 600 people.
I'm anxious to run the data, to see how many we had this week. But I would like to hit 600 this year. The sooner the better. But we can definitely do it. So, but like I said, I very truthfully, I sincerely thank everybody for the taking time in their day. If you do check in and you participate in the net and making it the success that it is. I'll actually be presenting on this at the ARRL Rocky Mountain Division conference, I guess we'll call it, in St. George, Utah, also coming up in July.
I might be there.
Okay, so I'll definitely look you up. So
yeah,
I'll be there too.
We're there's a bunch of us that are we're going to go to Yellowstone the week before.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of content creators that are thinking about hitting that Hamfest the weekend before. So I'm gonna try and make my way out there. It might be way too hot. I'm bringing my dog with me, and it's gonna be like 110 in St. George, in July, and I'm just like, I don't know if I could do that to my, I'd have to bring my dog in or get an air. It's just a whole drama thing.
Oh, I hear you, but I'm I'm already thinking it's like for that. Obviously, that's an in-person presentation, an in-person thing. It's like I'm going to come up with a way to make it interactive too with the group.
Yeah.
During the net over APRS.
Yeah.
So
that'd be cool.
But yeah, so that's the story. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. This was fascinating. I loved it. I love taking, like I said, a old technology and putting a new spin on. Any questions for Mike? We'll pause here just for a minute and take some questions. I know that we're about out of time, but I wanted to make sure that we had some time for questions. And we're about, 20 seconds behind whenever we stream, whenever everyone else in the YouTube land gets it. It's things on the internet are fast, but in YouTube land, they're not that fast. So Hayden says, what is your current APRS radio of choice in 2024?
There's two, but the FT5, but I also, my preference for a mobile rig is the Yaesu FTM 400 for a mobile rig, because the user interface on that is truly like, a touchscreen on your phone. It's got the full keyboard, you use a stylus from like an iPad or something. And I mean, you can bang those messages out really fast on the interface. I've got one right over here in my shack, actually. But the interface on the FTM 400 is my favorite. I don't believe the FTM 500 has the same interface. I don't think it has the same touchscreen that the 400 does. I don't have a 500. Maybe if someone out there does and they know, they could share that with us. But those are my radios of choice.
Yeah.
But that being said, I also want to clarify, the FT3 will do everything that the 5 will do for APRS, and even. Well, I don't want to say the FT2 because that radio stunk. But I had. Well, let me tell you. Let me quantify that for you. Then I was never able to get a reliable GPS lock with that radio.
Oh, I don't have that issue.
Maybe it was just me out here in the middle.
Well, I don't have that issue with the FT2, but Mike Kenwood, like I've had 4 Kenwood TM710 GAs, right?
Oh yeah, the Holy Grail radio.
Yeah, I love that radio. I've had 4 of them, and 2 of them have GPS issues. Like 2 of them will just not get a lock, and the other ones, I will set one of them right beside another one, and one will get a lock within 2 or 3 seconds, and the other one will just flash. Just I don't know what I'm doing. I've lost my mind.
Yeah. Well, that was my experience with my FT2, which prompted me to get rid of it and upgrades. But,
yeah.
But anyway, that was just the GPS part. I mean, the messaging still worked.
Yep. Hamstick Eric asks, any incoming low-cost APRS options? Most HT implementation of APRS sucks. So I don't know if you're talking about hardware, Eric, or not. Not really sure.
I'll tell you what, maybe why he's responding to that, but what would be helpful again is this the MobiLink like TNC4 is
Yeah.
the current model. You get one of these and you can pair this up. In fact, my very first APRS station was a Baofeng UV5R in one of these. So in fact, even before I got this, it was a Baofeng UV5R with a cable connected to an Android tablet, and it worked great. So you don't need an expensive APRS capable radio to have full capability. Like I said, the infamous Fang, along with a $20 cable off of Amazon and an old Android tablet running APRS Droid, and there's nothing I was not able to do.
Yeah.
So that's a very cost-effective way to get into it.
Yep. All right. Everyone's mispronouncing the Baofeng, and then yeah, it's where's Ham Radio 2.0 whenever you need him. Whenever he's pronouncing Baofeng, Boofeng, whatever, you know, it's
Fang.
Baofeng. It's different every time he says it. That's great. Hayden hit the nail on the head. So, all right. Very good. I don't think that we have anything else. Yeah, everyone's now on the Baofeng kick.
Friends don't let friends.
That radio gives back more ways than one, right?
Yeah.
Not only is it a crappy radio, but it's a crappy word. Anyway.
Well, and I know we're trying to wrap up, so I'll just do a quick shout out here for Ham Radio Crash Course. But if you haven't seen the video he did on the Baofeng, where what he did is, I think he used the 2-meter adventure frequency. So is it like 146,580 or something like that?
Yeah.
But anyway, using the Fang, you transmit it on that frequency and use, sort of a spectrum analyzer, and said, oh, hey, there were harmonics. There were very strong harmonics in the military air band. So in the, upper 200 megahertz range. And he demonstrated how far he was able to go from his house and still monitor that harmonic. It's a lot further than you think.
Yeah. So those are horrible radios.
Again, your mileage may vary, but
yeah, I love whenever, just real quick. So the ARRL has got a booth at, the bigger ham fest where they test radios, right? And they will test their harmonics on HTs, typically all HTs. And I was standing one year at Hamvention, and somebody brought in a Baofeng, right? And they tested it, and their eyes lit up, and they're like, "This one's the worst. This one's the worst one that we've ever seen." And it's like, they have a bell, and they ring the bell, right? And it's like, ding, ding, ding. This is the worst.
We found a way to transmit on huge chunks of bandwidth at once.
it just wipes out the whole 2-meter.
It's not a bug, man. It's a feature.
Yeah, it's a feature. So, all right, Mike. Thanks again. Thank you for the presentation. That was great.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, we will get some more. I'm going to check in. I'm going to put it on my calendar, and I'm going to check in for APRS Thursday next week. I am definitely going to do it. This is cool. So,
absolutely. Thank you very much, Kyle. I appreciate the opportunity to share this with folks. Thanks, everybody, for listening along.
Yeah, this was a fun presentation. All right. Very good. If you have any questions, get a hold of Mike. He is go back and rewatch the presentation for his content or his contact info. And
KC8OWL at yahoo.com.
Yep, will do. No trivia tomorrow night, boys and girls. I just it's been a week from hell, so I haven't gotten trivia questions. So no trivia before the happy hour. But I might be streaming on Saturday because that's NAQP single sideband. We're going to do it here at the house, remote from the at the contest. Well, here, but we're going to use the contest station radios. So I don't know. We might stream on Saturday for NAQP. So be looking for that. But anyway, thanks, Mike, again. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank
73,
you. Thanks,
guys.
everybody. See you later.